Beginning sequence was originally going to be, quite a simple sequence, and then I was thinking, well, actually, in the majority of crime and mystery, they generally don't have simple titles. Now, the audio is a non-diegetic. It was recorded by me and Layard on Final Cut Pro. We had a little bit of difficulty trying to figure out, actually, does the sound like is actually a key going in the door and opening the door, and then someone struggling in the background, which in this case is the victim. I didn't want the heavy breathing in the background to be so loud and domineering. I wanted it to be something subtle, so you sort of listen for it, and it's like, wait, is that someone breathing? So immediately it's something that would make the audience ask questions, which is a theme which runs through the whole of this film. The tentacle sound effect was actually unintentional, and actually originally part of the Soundbeds track, the ident of the YouTuber. We thought that, it would establish and match the danger of the shoes, as they look quite sinister. It could be dangerous, this person could be dangerous. Now, the whole point of this sequence is to not only make an establishment of the area and the surroundings, but it's also to build questions about who the person is, and it gets us also ask questions, and I'm glad how it's come across, because I think the suspense level is exactly what I was going for when I was writing this sequence. I mean, there's one shot, that we did have difficulty with, which was the point of shot from the detective's point of view. However, when we filmed it and came to the editing, we could see ourselves in the reflection of the window door, so that we couldn't use that. Unfortunately, this shot is out of focus on the actor. We could have avoided that by simply reviewing the shot afterwards and filming it again, having better control on the DSLR. The case of practicing it would have been better. So originally there wasn't really going to be a sound bed at the beginning sequence, and then the introduction of music is when we see the girl with eerily piano keys or something. Now, when we see the girl, I'm glad that with this track we're able to match the tempo change, the mood change when we see the girl, as like sort of a clarification, but also a sad one. Originally, when the detective was going to kneel down at the foot of the girl, she was going to move her jacket slightly to reveal her necklace. But when we came to filming it, it was actually quite hard from the position that the actor took to actually lean over and play with the jacket. It's far too difficult to make that look effortless. The music in this area does pick up to be a little slightly too hopeful for what we're seeing here. These next few shots, I did struggle to try and make it look as consistent as I could. I mean, it's blatant, that her eye position is in a different, she's looking down differently when we're switching between shots, and also a hand position. I would have really liked that to be absolutely perfect, because it's a good opportunity to show off continuity skills. Now, a great struggle that both me and Shaquila had to deal with was the audio. We used the inbuilt mic from the DSLR on the cameras, and I knew that, it wouldn't be the most sophisticated of sound. However, I regret not exploring and questioning whether we could use separate mics and booms, and I definitely regret doing that. However, we have learnt from our lesson, and also learnt how to adjust sounds and normalise it on Soundtrack Pro. Looking at this shot, I think it's a little bit odd, because to me it seems obvious that we've stuck our hand in a tub of dirt. Originally I wanted it to just be under fingernails, but it turned out to be something actually more obvious. I think that was because when we were recording it, it was quite hard to get so close and be steady at it, because in the position that we were in, it was very awkward. So perhaps I'm thinking, we could have corrected that awkwardness by simply having a little tripod setup, or just thinking about it more and planning it more and having more time dedicated to the shot. Although you could say, well, this adds something different to the game, maybe she's been outside. But ultimately, then that question is something we weren't originally going for. I think the pictures that we took in the film and placed in the film, the pictures could have been more obvious that they are actually pictures. So perhaps giving that sort of more of a Polaroid effect with the white outline. However, we sort of thought about it, but we actually just didn't get around to doing it, I'm afraid. But it's still blatant, I think, that it's a picture. Also, with the photograph sound effect, I think it's a little bit confusing, as it's not a relatable, common photographic sound that we would associate with taking a picture. But I still think that it worked, and it is actually the diegetic sound that comes from the original shot. A problem which occurred when we came to editing and also filming was lighting. We didn't really think much about the lighting beforehand, which I think, could have been helped when we did come to recording. We found that certain lightings, for an example, white, when the forensic scientists with their big white overalls, that influences the lighting degrading immensely. So, having that change from, dark to light, it's a little bit distracting and unprofessional. So reviewing the lighting situation would have prevented this. And perhaps also doing a little workshop for ourselves, and then obviously practicing on set, I think would have been so much more better. I think the key to this would have been preparation. Now this bit is actually Shakila's half of the edit. However, I did watch it and review some things and suggested maybe she could change things, here and there. And also, especially with this bit, I'm thinking, it's a little bit of a long run, without anything changing. I think we should have reverted back to the crime scene whilst he's talking, the officer's talking. We did have another little sequence where the detective is examining of the victim, but we didn't use that. Originally it was in my half, but if I think putting it in my half, I simply wouldn't have had that much room because it would have changed the tempo, and I think it would have gone too fast and then slow, which would not have made sense, especially as we're trying to pick up the speed throughout. Now, the reason why I didn't also put it in, I partly forgot. I mean, it's probably a blessing in disguise, but I'm thinking in hindsight we could have used that little sequence there to keep the tempo going. This transition was actually done by me, and it was something I did, as one of the final tweaks that I made. I felt that from what Marcus says, we were in love, Faye to his ex-girlfriend, it adds a bit more of a loving backstory, and also it reminds the audience that this is something tragic. It's not just a game trying to figure out who killed who or what. It's bring it back down to reality. She is dead, she's young, and they were in love, supposedly. Now this bit, we did think maybe Rebecca was a bit too quick to reply, it's as though she is literally reading lines. Although we did explain to the actress, that this character is quite easy to jump to the gun, and she's well prepared, she's smart and quick to think on her feet. So it supports that in some hindsight, but maybe I think just a fraction bit of pause would have made it believable. Now in hindsight, I think this shot could have been redone. The angle is exactly how I imagined it to be when I was writing, but unfortunately the lighting in this was bouncing off and reflecting and working against us. I think it's a case of adapting to the circumstances and actually changing to suit the situation, the lighting. However, I would say also, in a professional world, they would change the circumstances to suit the shot that they're going to get. I like now how the characters are coming across more, getting a bit more agitated. The pace is speeding up between questions, and it's just now a montage between the characters and not the officer. I'm thinking actually we could have supported this a bit more with the sound bed. We could have changed the tempo or changed a different soundtrack, slightly different or something, because I think it slows down the tempo and it's not quite at the same speed and level as I would have liked. More research into the music would have prevented this. However, I did have quite a bit of difficulty finding suitable music. Now, the little sequence of shots with the money, the coins, was originally going to be one shot, but we agreed to edit it more like a jump cut, because out of the 3 shots, one of the shots was absolutely useless, and then the other 2 shots, either the beginning or the end were better than the other. And because it's out of focus, not blatantly, but it is still out of focus, we took to shorten the shot, was I think a really good call. Now this sequence of the forensic scientist was shot by me, and I must tell you, it was the most awkward position that I've probably ever been in to try and get a shot. And I think you can't tell that in the shot, it's not shaking, and the angle's pretty and the angle's pretty good, and the angle's pretty strong. However, I have doubts in my mind, the backgrounds, the lining, of the cupboards, and then the join between the ceiling and the wall, those added lines and dimensions maybe make it look a little bit confusing. So maybe I could have altered my position. Now this end shot, I don't know if I'm fully satisfied with it. I think it does the job that you're assuming. I think it's obvious that it's a jump cut, and I think also I think the severity and the harshness of the sound and the movement is quite fierce to match now the seeming scientist. But I don't know if it works 100%. I did have a little tweak in it, making the shot longer so it's not so quick, because it's also quick, when he slams it down. So I prolonged that and then sort of made it fade out, and then I wanted it to be longer until the credits start rolling, because I wanted the questions to be asked, more time for the audience to recover in a way. I'm really quite satisfied with the choice I made with this credit ending. When I saw it, it reminded me of CSI and the blue lights on cop cars, which is why really I went for it. But you could say, well, it is a little bit of a cheap scapegoat. So maybe it could have been more sophisticated enough. I mean, this whole project could have been a bit more sophisticated to the level of more professional. However, I am at subsidiary diploma standard. I'm not a professional yet. Okay, so I think given with what I've produced, I should be quite happy with it. Although I do firmly believe, self-criticize is probably one of the best tools that you can have in this industry. Now, the ending credit music belongs to The Vampire Diaries end credit music. As I expressed, I had trouble with finding music for this film. But I think it works. Shaquila's never watched The Vampire Diaries, and she didn't know, and she quite liked it, so she was like, yeah, that's fine. But personally, because I watched The Vampire Diaries, my concern that people would assumedly go to that and then and have mixed feelings about the whole film then at the end. In terms of it working with the film, the tempo and the mood that it sets is absolutely spot on.